Hey everyone, in this video I want to give a summary and my opinion on the Path of Exile 2's The Last of the Druids expansion, primarily from a solo self-found perspective. Let's dive in. I'll start with the management summary, normally aimed at impatient senior management. In gamers with no attention span, this is also known as the TLDR. The title of the expansion provides a clue as to where the emphasis lies next league. It is on the Druid. That's great if you're excited to play the Druid, but what if you are excited to play the game, not a class? What if the rampaging bear and the howling wolf and the fucking flying dragon are done obliterating the battlefield? Once the dust has settled and they return to their human form, then what? In that case, there's much less to be excited about. The predicted 0.4 endgame overall didn't make the cut. There is some balancing going on in terms of classes and abilities. We do get a new league mechanic, but I think what it offers to SSF is somewhat limited. And what it offers in general may be limited too. And besides that, there's really not that much there. The Druid, assuming it's all working, which is a big if, will be plenty of reason to log in for a good number of people. But for me, regarding everything else, I'll be happy to play, but I'm not very excited. I feel I've said most of what I wanted to say about the Druid already in the few lines that I talked. You've all watched the trailer, surely. It looks incredible, the smoothness of the animations, the sound design, how easy it is to swap forms, and it does 17 damage, true to its source material. I'm gonna skip the ascendancies, I think they look cool, but let's see how useful they really are. The one concern I have is that GGG has a tendency to overdesign and convolute these classes, like they did with the Huntress and Parry. This may happen to the Druid as well, where one limiting resource that you have to get via combo gameplay or specific skills determines how you can play the class. I hope that's not the case and that they learned from previous iterations. GGG typically does learn from previous iterations, only sometimes it takes about 8 years. Time will tell. Will I be playing the Druid? Yes, I think so. I do have a guide of an Infernalist on Mobalytics that I have to take care of, but I didn't see many changes in that regard, so I'll probably join the pack and make several Zero to Hero episodes out of that. Am I excited for the Druid? Not really, to be honest. My general vision on classes is that they are a means to an end. They are not a goal in itself. I look at builds in a similar fashion. I play a class or I make a build so I can have fun farming endgame or a specific type of endgame. I want stuff to do in endgame with that build. The build itself is secondary to me, which is why I am not too excited about it. I'm happy for those that are though. The Druid looks pretty sick. Regarding the content update, again, like the Druid, thematically, visually, in terms of art style, world building, sound design, it is mind-boggling how good everything looks. This is almost standard at this point, the level of quality and polish in PoE, but it is not normal, and I think we should not forget that. I'll give a quick rundown of my understanding of the mechanic. In every zone, and later in every map, you will find these devices, Vaal beacons. By killing the monsters around it, you energize the beacon. I've been energizing a lot of beacons lately, I guess we'll do that for a few more months then, sure. After energizing 6 of these, you get access to the Vaal ruins, where you get to place parts of a Vaal temple, similar to Synthesis Lake back in the day, or everyone's favorite, Lake of Kalandra. Every beacon grants 1 piece, so you have 6 pieces, and after placing them you can run the instance, the Vaal temple. After you're done, part of the instance collapses, about 2 pieces by the looks of it, which means that if you rinse and repeat this exercise, you will effectively add 4 pieces every 6 maps, until you've built up the temple completely. There is a pinnacle boss in there, Adziri. I think after killing her, significantly more pieces will collapse, and then you can really start all over again, or maybe for the most part of that. Maybe you even get a completely new instance, who knows. Also, expect plenty of special rooms, special bosses, upgradable rooms, providing individual rewards, perhaps already crafting options at this stage, and possibly more that they haven't shown yet. Let's first break this down a little bit, before I get into the second part of the league mechanic. What I'm quite excited about from an SSF perspective is that these new league mechanics, so in this case the Vaal Temple rooms, are typically super useful for SSF. Whether it's item progression, currency, crafting materials, it is quite common in PoE 2 and PoE 1 that the new league mechanic is very rewarding compared to the base game, and I expect this to be no different. I would therefore absolutely run the mechanic in the campaign as well and take full advantage of it. Having to run 6 zones or 6 maps before you can interact with the mechanic seems like a lot, especially at first. The temple will grow over time, so the ratio playing the standard game, let's say, versus playing the new league mechanic will get better the more you build out the temple. But if that balance is off, this new temple will feel non-existent, which is going to be an issue. It's the same issue the current PoE 1 league is suffering from. I also feel that the impact on maps from the Vaal beacons is less than the impact Abyss had on maps. It was exciting to find an Abyss. I'm not sure it's going to be as exciting to find a Vaal beacon. I don't think so. What will be fun is to figure out how the temple works and how you can build it to your advantage. I expect a decent bit of player agency here, which especially in SSF is great. There's more to this mechanic, however, because at some point, Doriani chimes in and opens an instance to the past. I'm speculating here a little bit, but this typically happens only in endgame. So in red maps or from tier 14 maps onwards, you can expect this to happen, I think. And this temple to the past does open way more possibilities, primarily more endgame encounters and several endgame crafting rewards. I'm unsure if you now have 2 instances of the temple, one in the current time and one in the past, to where Aziri communes with the beast, but it doesn't really matter. Everything I talked about before will still be there, but added on top of that are a bunch of endgame mechanics, such as these crafts. I think this part looks better on video than it will be in reality for solo self-found. These crafts are a lot more niche and who knows how rare they are. So for the average SSF player, and I count myself as part of that group, I just play a lot, I am not sure how useful all of these endgame crafting options will be, or how often you will encounter them. To fully utilize them, you may require other materials or items that are pretty hard to get, so I'm really hoping there are also some casual crafting options out there. The double corruption is likely very usable, and crafting yourself a new arm, that should be viable. I'm a bit less excited about all the soul cores and stuff, those seem super niche. I do appreciate you can itemize all of those and just store them for later use, once you have an item worth crafting on. To summarize, my main concern is that it may take too long to be spending time in this new league mechanic to make it feel fresh and rewarding. 6 maps? I'm not sure. It may feel like too long, simply speaking. Otherwise though, I'm quite excited to discover all of the Vaal secrets. In my opinion, where my disappointment starts a little bit is with the rest of the patch. Sure, they're adding new things, right? Like over 35 new supports, 8 new lineage supports, much more powerful supports that are only available in endgame, over 250 passive skills to the passive tree, over 10 new unique items, because 11 is more than 10, and 4 new augment items with new modifiers that you can craft onto your items. Is this really content that gets you excited though? Maybe it is, but for me, I'm going back to that initial philosophy on how I look at the game, and I want new things to play and do. I care much less about the other stuff. To me, it's great that they're adding all of this, and I will be using some of it most likely at some point, but I'm most excited about new endgame stuff, things I can spend time doing. Like the new Vaal Temple mechanic, right? That is new content to me. I'm happy Abyss went core, that's good for SSF as well, it has a lot of useful crafting materials and you'll be able to get Abyss in pretty much every map if you want to by using tablets. There's going to be an atlas tree for it as well, so that is all a great change, I feel. Regarding balance, if you want an in-depth analysis of the balance changes, I think basically every other PoE content creator is doing that. I will give you my take on the overall balance though. What I really don't care about is, for example, how strong lightning is. They can buff lightning for all I care. I really don't mind. What I care about is how weak 80% of the skills are. In PoE 1, I can seemingly pick any skill and make it to tier 16 maps by just using logic, experimentation, and some online resources every now and then, like the wiki. I've been growing my YouTube channel lately with videos doing exactly that. Compare that to Path of Exile 2 though. The strides in effort and frustration I have to go through in Path of Exile 2 if I just wanted to pick a random skill that seems fun, find suitable and understandable support gems that don't require a PhD to use, and reach red maps, it's way too much. Just starting a character and having fun with random skills in PoE 2 is something I find very hard to do, and that is the one thing with balance that I do care about. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't know if these numerical buffs to skills are enough, but by going through the patch notes, I can tell many skills have been numerically buffed, and by a lot as well. So hopefully my roulette builds are actually capable of making it to endgame. If that's the case, I would consider the game more balanced. I think that helps SSF players in general too, as you can't fix builds by trading, and getting stuck with a build in Act 2 is a real possibility in the current version of the game. That should never happen, I feel, so I hope all of these buffs help with that. Finally, Endgame Changes. One pretty big change is that pack size has effectively been removed, and now there are less monsters, but they have more life, grant more loot and more experience. I don't feel strongly about a change like this, but there's always the risk that it gets poorly implemented or is bugged or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't working the first week, and after a Reddit and Fubcon outcry, it's fixed. Tablets being able to roll 4 modifiers instead of 2 is pretty big. The requirement, killing the Arbiter of Ash, is a quite steep requirement in SSF. I do like it though, it gives you something to progress towards, which I feel is always a good thing, similar to the Void Stones in PoE 1. Getting all 4 of those, that's a challenge in Solo Self-Found in Path of Exile 1 as well, and I think that is part of the charm of the game mode. Several of the mods on tablets were buffed too, but typically their top end wasn't. Only the lower end of the roll range was increased. On average, that means more juicy tablets, and in SSF beggars can't be choosers, it seems like an okay change. They fixed the delirium fog by the looks of it. Not that I was applying all of these things to my maps, but still, it looks pretty good, you got some color in there. They added an objective icon for activating all checkpoints. When a player activates all of the checkpoints and completes the map, all of the map content minimap icons will be revealed. I think that is a nice middle ground solution for showing rares straight away, and other icons as well. The biggest thing that is not there are the promised/predicted 0.4 endgame changes. They were simply not ready, and this is the consequence of their new policy on making the timeline deadlines instead of the content deadlines. Plus, it is the holiday season, so this gets released much earlier than anticipated. I'm not someone who holds this against GGG, promising and not delivering. I think anyone who has worked on something even remotely as complex as what these guys are delivering every few months with 100 or so people understands this can easily happen. It's kind of a miracle, in fact, it doesn't happen more often. The scale of these changes and the amount of collaboration required to implement those changes in a sort of meaningful and polished level, it is absolutely off the charts. There are very few companies who can pull that off, inside and outside of gaming, so I don't hold that against them. I do think it's a shame though, because the way I see it, all we're getting really is the new Vaal temple, a significant balance rework which I just hope pans out well, and for those interested, the Druid. It's not all that much, frankly speaking. The base game is already pretty good, I will enjoy myself no matter what they will do for a few weeks for sure. But I'm not as excited to play as I was last league, for example, knowing that last league fizzled out relatively fast, as the only thing that was added to the game was a bit, which was a lot of fun, but endgame was still the same. This time I expect it's not gonna be much different. I have decent hopes that the build roulettes will be more viable for a build maker noob like me, so in the end I'll be once again happy to play, but I'm not very excited. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Subscribe for more SSF PoE content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, especially on SSF, and I'll see you all soon. Love you all. Bye bye.